Tadhg Beirne's red card has been rescinded, folks. It was a controversial one at the time. Early red cards, when it's two big teams playing, tend to be controversial, but this one was particularly controversial. We'll go through some of the wording, what was the ruling, my take on the incident, plus the 20-minute red card generally, and the changing nature of red cards, and you guys can let us know your thoughts. We do need to acknowledge up front that with all of these controversial issues, be it like foot and touch, balls being grounded, intent behind tackles, and in this case, like the contact between Tadhg Beirne and Beauden Barrett, you can get 10 people in a room to watch the exact same footage and you'll get 10 different stories about what actually happened. So we all disagree a little bit, but I feel like there was a lot of disagreement about whether this was a high level of danger. And I feel like, and maybe I'm not reading the room, but my gut feel from people I talked to was that incident between Tadhg Beirne and Beauden Barrett did not constitute a high level of danger. Personally, I don't even think either player was particularly expecting Bodie to get the ball in that situation, and they just kind of collided. If anything, it was more Bodie going into Tadhg than like Tadhg ripping into him with the shoulder. That's my personal take. Plenty will disagree. But in terms of high-level danger, I don't think so. I know there was contact with the head, but I don't think it was like a full, as I said, kind of driving shot where he was like stepping up into the tackle or something like that. As I said, I think it's just two guys bumping into each other, and unfortunately Bodie gets knocked in the head. Remember, Beauden Barrett showed a bit of class, and even he said like he would support Tadhg in the judiciary process because he didn't think that what happened to him was red card worthy either, which doesn't usually happen very often. Players don't usually speak about that kind of thing, so I think Bodie doing that showed a bit of class, and for mine, again, a bit of common sense. The high level of danger, which not the ref, it was the off-field review, came to the conclusion has since, I guess, been overruled because the verdict of the review has said that it did not meet the red card threshold. So again, for mine, this is a sensible outcome because for mine, it's not a high level of danger to warrant a red card. I know there are those who will say, concussions need to be taken seriously. I 100% agree. Upright tackles, guys need to get lower. I agree. I just don't think that fits this situation, given that I don't think either player was particularly expecting the ball, nor that they were about to collide with each other. 20-minute red cards. Personally, I think this incident highlights the benefit of the 20-minute red card because the fact that Ireland were able to go back to 15 players, even if Beirne himself can't return, which it sucks, but it would have sucked way worse if that had been a full game red card. Now, there are those who will say they might not have given him a red card if it was a full red card or nothing, but I don't think that's the way the law is supposed to work. But yeah, I think this is personally an example of the 20-minute red cards working. We were still able to get a contest, even if it was 20 minutes with Ireland in the bin. If it had been a yellow, if they didn't say what they adjudged that it should have been. If it should have been a yellow, then it's obviously 10 more minutes with a man down, and then one of your star players not being able to return. But still, I think this is a positive. If that game goes for like 75 minutes with 15 on 14, that sucks way more than what we saw at the weekend. Changing nature of red cards, I think, is also a valid point because the powers that be have been changing their mind about what constitutes a red card a lot over recent years. And if you tuned out of rugby and only tuned back in every few years, you'd be a bit perplexed because red cards used to be pretty rare, saved for the most egregious foul acts of play. And then with all the protection around guys on the receiving end of tackles, they started applying them to high tackle incidents, to head-on-head contact incidents, to a lot of incidental stuff. They went from kind of one extreme to another where we were seeing red cards galore. And I feel like they got that a little bit too far that way. And then they've seemingly kind of pulled it back a little bit, and especially with the 20-minute red cards and this off-field review process, they're still going, that could have been potentially a red card, but they're mitigating it down like it was passive in the tackle, low level of danger, or there was a level change because he slipped, or there was a sudden change because he stepped, no time to react, all that kind of thing. more often than not, they are finding a reason to mitigate down, which I feel like is a decent spot to be in. But I wish they'd found a spot to mitigate that one, because I feel like a lot of people would have looked at that and gone, Tadhg Beirne's pretty passive in the tackle, so it's a low level of danger. But again, the match officials on the day did not see it that way. But it means Tadhg is free to play against Japan in Ireland's next match. So as I said, it sucks that he got a red card at the time. I'm pleased Ireland were able to go back to 15 players. I feel like it's a common sense decision, but having seen rugby in recent years where they were giving out red cards for any bit of high contact with an onus on protecting guys' heads, I can understand why there were some who were saying, by the laws of the game, this is the way the game is officiated. But as I said, I think they have pushed a little bit away from that, where they are looking for hopefully kind of common sense mitigation in incidents, hopefully like this one in future. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts on the rescinding of the red card, and I will talk to you guys again soon. See you later.